I'll tell you what is good as far as technology is concerned, and this is a bit of a boy's dream, and that is to fly to space. I think every kid at one stage in his life has thought to himself, I'd like to be an astronaut.
Yep.
No, oh, right, okay.
No?
Yeah,
it did cross my mind. I still remember vividly when Neil Armstrong lands on the moon. We're all watching.
You didn't want to do that?
At the time I did. Now I'm a bit older. I'm not sure my heart would cope.
Well, listen, there's about 24 Aussies. Collectively, they're paying about $4.6 million to buy spaceflight tickets with Virgin Galactic. So it's about 200 grand a ticket.
Wow.
You'd want to make sure you had a good seat, wouldn't you? The Aussies are going to be among the first people in space, possibly at the end of next year. There's a test flight that's going to take place at the end of this year. And there's a stack of people that have jumped on board of all of this. One man is Ruslan Kogan. He's based in Melbourne. He's going to be one of the first people to jump on a flight with Virgin and take off to space. And we're happy to say that he joins us on the line. How you doing, Ruslan?
G'day, gents. Good, thanks.
Yeah, you're a braver man than I am, Ruslan. I'm telling you, I wouldn't want to be going into space. I have trouble flying from here to Melbourne. You want to go into space? Why?
Oh, it's been a childhood dream, you know, from a young age. I was telling my mum I want to be an astronaut. So she wasn't too happy. She wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, so...
Aren't they boring mothers, though?
Sorry?
Mums can be really boring.
That's it, and she's still upset. She's still telling me, no, don't go. Why do you want to go? Just look at videos of other people doing it. But look, in terms of safety and whether it's an actual risk or not, Richard Branson's going on the first flight himself. Yep. So if a man like that's doing that sort of gesture, then I think it's all under control.
How many people in total are going on the flight? Because there's 23 Aussies going.
Yeah, look, I was at the launch of the spacecraft a couple of years ago in the Mojave Desert. I was the only Aussie there. So when the newspaper called me up and they said there's 23 Aussies, I was like, what? I was shocked. I'm like, tell them to give a shout out to them, tell them to contact me for a beer. So at the time, 2 years ago, there were about 200 people from around the world, and I was the only Aussie there. So maybe there's 20 times as many people now because there's 23 Aussies. So it's literally thousands.
You were the first Australian, though, to officially sign up to pay over the money and say, well, I'm going to space with Virgin. You're the first Australian to do so.
I believe so, unless others have been keeping it a secret and the newspapers don't know about it, but I was the only Aussie at the launch.
So what do you know about Virgin Galactic?
I know that it's an entrepreneur trying to do something for the first time that's extraordinary. So, you know, over the years, the US government and the Russian government have sent 498 people into space at a cost of over $5 billion. So that's at a cost of over $500 billion. It's over $1 billion a person. So Richard Branson stepped in and he said, look, I'm going to create an industry out of this, and he's doing it for 5,000 times cheaper than the governments have done it. So it just shows the efficiency created when a businessman stepped in and said, I'm going to revolutionise this industry.
What is involved, as far as you know, at this early stage, in terms of your pre-flight training? You must have to undergo a bit of training, Ruslan.
None at all. The training required the same sort of training you'll need to undergo if you want to fly from Sydney to Melbourne. It's a commercial space flight, so they've totally redesigned the aircraft, everything that's required for it. Pretty much the only training is that they're putting nappies on us all because there's no bathroom on the spacecraft. So,
I tell you what.
How long's the flight?
That's pretty much the only difference you'll find between a Melbourne to Sydney flight.
For 200 grand, you'd be pretty ticked off if you got an aisle seat. You'd want a window seat, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's it. So hopefully I've put in my request in my Virgin frequent flyer thing, so hopefully the request pulls through. But look, in terms of what's allowed and what's not allowed and the finer details, they haven't released much of that yet. Yeah. You know, hopefully I'll be able to bring up a packet of M&Ms with me and do that sort of thing that Homer Simpson did, where, you know, let them loose and then float around eating them. Like, that would be pretty cool. But yeah, we don't know the finer details.
I love the fact that Branson himself started with very little. He's an entrepreneur, global superstar. You started with very little, and now you're, I think, Australia's youngest multi-millionaire at 29 years of age. How did you make your money, Ruslan?
It's through Kogan.com. We manufacture and retail the latest technology like LED TVs and LCD TVs, phones, tablets, all of that sort of stuff. So we're riding the big wave of online retail and giving Aussies prices they've never seen before.
I suppose, you know, somebody like Branson, you would have, as a young man, would have said, you know what, I like what that guy's doing, I might have a crack myself.
Yeah, certainly, you know, I've admired his achievements for a long time, and the main thing, you know, there's lots of businessmen and entrepreneurs out there, but the thing with Branson that I really like is that he goes after the big guys. He's not out there, you know, taking on the local shoe repair store. He's out there taking on the likes of British Airways and, you know, all the mobile phone companies in Australia, goes against the big banks with Virgin Money. It's, you know, it's any business book would tell you, you know, leave that industry alone. There's a massive player in there. You can't go up against them. You know, he's taken on Coca-Cola in the US. So, you know, that I really admire. And that's similar to what Kogan's done in the Australian market where, you know, we're a startup business that started with $0 6 years ago, and we're a manufacturer and retailer. So on one hand, we're taking on the Sonys and the Samsungs and the LGs. On the other hand, we're taking on billion-dollar companies like Harvey Norman and JB Hi-Fi. So I can really relate to what the man's doing.
Listen, while we've got you there, we were discussing this yesterday. We've just come back from overseas, and we were also talking about online sales and use of the internet to buy things from overseas. I'm just wondering, how's the market going for you guys? Because we found that the cost of appliances and just general cost of living overseas was considerably less compared to here in Australia.
Oh, look, certainly our retailers here have experienced high margins for way too long. You can't see the same sort of margins in any retailer around the world. And, you know, that was our goal from day one, to make technology more affordable. So our business is growing. You know, I see in the news all these big retailers reporting slowdown in sales and all of that. From my perspective, we've had over 700% growth in the last year. We've gone from being a $20 million business to a $200 million business.
God.
And it's interesting that you say what you say after you did some travel and you saw what's going on overseas. We're the only country in the world where when someone comes back from a holiday, we ask them, like, oh, did you go shopping? What did you buy?
Yeah.
You know, when an American goes to Paris, they say, did you see the Eiffel Tower? You know, they don't say, oh, what did you buy? We've been conditioned to being ripped off for so long.
The shopping was on the top. Shopping was on the top of everyone's list, especially the girls, on this 2-week vacation we took with 70 of our listeners. And everybody wanted to shop. And the price of items was just, I mean, blew us all away.
Exactly, you know, and there's no reason why it should be like that. Our retailers shouldn't take Australian consumers for granted. We've got to innovate, create new ways to ensure that when you go on holiday, it's all about taking happy snaps in front of landmarks. It's not about shopping. And that's what Kogan's trying to change in the Australian landscape.
Landscape, you mentioned. It'll be Spacescape in a minute.
Yes.
You're off to space maybe as early as next year. Thanks for the chat this afternoon. We'll stay in touch if we may. And the countdown, I love that sort of space talk, the countdown. We can have another chat to you and just see how nervous you might be getting.
Good stuff, gents.
Nice to talk to you, buddy. All the very best.
All the
Ruslan
best.
Kogan there. Kogan.com, as he says, an online a startup venture 6 years ago.
Nothing.
Very successful young Australian. He's braver than me. I wouldn't be doing it.
Wouldn't you do it? 200 grand, you wouldn't do it?
I'd be a bit frightened.
A bit frightened?
We might not come back.
You might come back.
Well, you might.
And what happens if you don't? Your wife will be happy. Just tell me on the trip.
You would, she?
2 Murrays, TUA.